Get Bradley Cooper on the phone. Jake Lloyd needs a star. Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. Get Bradley Cooper on the phone.
We're looking at The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. And we're looking at the scene, today we're looking at one particular scene in this movie, where the group that is now the main character group of this story, as we've met them now, as we first meet Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, two Jedi Knights that have been dispatched on a secret mission by the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. And these two Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the learner, the young Padawan, and Qui-Gon Jinn, the teacher, the master Jedi. And they follow the Trade Federation's invasion to the planet of Naboo, onto the planet of Naboo, stowing aboard the invasion ships, where upon meeting on the land of Naboo, they run into Jar Jar Binks, where Qui-Gon saves Jar Jar, and then they both encounter Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Jar Jar then says, "You saved me again." And then, of course, later this comes into play when that group, that trio now, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Jar Jar Binks, swim underwater to the city of the Gungans, where we meet Boss Nass and Captain Tarpus, and we learn that Jar Jar Binks is not welcome there in the city of the Gungans. And he is to be, as the boss of the Gungans says, the leader of the Gungans, Boss Nass says, punished. And then he laughs about it. And then we see Jar Jar, very sad, not happy at all, reacting to this pronouncement by Boss Nass that he is to be punished. Where then Qui-Gon uses his influence, as we saw him using the Jedi mind trick, and we've already seen their skills with the lightsaber, as well as force power as they run with super speed to escape the destroyer droids. But here, as we meet the Gungans now in this city of the Gungans under the water, Qui-Gon uses the mind trick and then calls to the Gungans themselves and reminds them that their gods demand that Jar Jar Binks now belongs to Qui-Gon, in the sense of his life now belongs to him, as Qui-Gon saved Jar Jar. And thus, in this way, Jar Jar now owes a life debt to Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon uses this to both his advantage as he's seeking someone to help them navigate through the planet core, and possibly having compassion upon this fellow, this person, this alien to us, this Gungan, meeting Jar Jar Binks, as Qui-Gon has compassion on Jar Jar and possibly wants to keep him from being punished, as Boss Nass puts it. So Jar Jar Binks, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Qui-Gon Jinn are in this transport that travels through the water, traveling through the planet core from this Gungan city to the other part of the civilization of this planet, Naboo, to the Naboo, so to speak, as they refer to them in the movie. And they meet Queen Amidala and her entourage, security forces. We see the technology that the Naboo use, both in military defense as well as traveling and flying about the galaxy. And their technology regarding communication with holograms and what look to be as television screens, droids, and so on. And then, as they're traveling from Naboo to escape the clutches of the Trade Federation and the droid army, that is the Trade Federation army, we meet R2-D2, who repairs the ship in flight as they travel through the blockade, breaking through the military barrier set up by the Trade Federation to escape to Coruscant, the central system of the Republic. And then, of course, we see the fuel is an issue as well as the hyperdrive is leaking. And so they decide to land the whole crew on the planet Tatooine, where we meet Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker, a 10-year-old boy, a slave along with his mother, owned by Watto, a local businessman and avid gambler. And this part of the personality of Watto plays towards Qui-Gon Jinn's advantage as he gambles to gain the freedom of Anakin, making a bet with Watto that Anakin will win the pod race, beating Sebulba. As Watto says, Sebulba always wins. So Qui-Gon wagers the racing pod and his ship against, as he says, the boy and his mother for their freedom. Watto throws the dice. I happen to have a chance cube right here. We'll let fate decide, he says. So he throws the chance cube. Blue, the boy. Red, his mother. And so on. And using the Force, Qui-Gon brings about the chance cube to land on blue. So, as a side note here, we can see how Qui-Gon Jinn uses the Force to great advantage often as he is able. Using the Jedi mind trick as well as gambling. Always trusting the living Force, as Qui-Gon would put it. And here's where we learn more about the Force through the teaching of Qui-Gon Jinn. And we learn about the midichlorians as well, as Qui-Gon is explaining the Force to Anakin the night before the race. The pod race. Speaking of the pod race, The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. All-time epic masterpiece. Yep, starting with the opening title crawl. And so, the pod race, an absolute masterpiece. Groundbreaking special effects. All-time epic editing. Scene by scene, frame by frame. An all-time epic masterpiece. Yeah, and here in the pod race we see Anakin as the pilot. And he has Jedi reflexes. And this is why he appears to be able to move so quickly. Because you can see things before they happen. And again, here we see this because of Qui-Gon Jinn, as he is explaining this to Anakin's mother. So we're learning about the Force, and we're seeing this world. We meet the group of people. Padme, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, R2-D2, C-3PO, Queen Amidala, a.k.a. Padme Amidala, and not to mention Senator Palpatine, also known as, in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Chancellor Palpatine, and then later to be revealed in Episode 3 as Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord, the Dark Lord of the Sith, who was actually controlling the Senate, according to Count Dooku, as he was telling this to Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Another all-time epic masterpiece! Attack of the Clones, all-time epic masterpiece. The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. So Anakin wins the race and then discovers that he is free, but his mother remains a slave. Another all-time epic masterpiece, this scene where Anakin where Anakin must choose, go live his dream and see the galaxy and train to become a Jedi. Basically, going and making his dreams come true, as his mother told him he's now able to do, now that he's free. But he must choose between making his dreams come true and leaving his mother, or staying and remaining on Tatooine, but being with his mother. That he loves his mother, and his mother loves him. Another all-time epic scene, written and directed by George Lucas, The Phantom Menace, an all-time epic masterpiece. And I am your host, Mr. The Prequels. And now on to the characters performing these roles, or these characters as they're being performed by actors performing these roles. Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson. Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor. Jar Jar Binks, played by Ahmed Best. Another all-time epic, Anakin Skywalker, as played by Jake Lloyd. An all-time epic masterpiece. Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. Yeah, Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. And I am your host, Mr. The Prequels. Padme Amidala, a.k.a. Queen Amidala, played by Natalie Portman. An all-time epic masterpiece. All-time! R2-D2, played by Kenny Baker. Another all-time epic masterpiece. And of course, C-3PO, played by Sir Anthony Daniels. Another all-time epic masterpiece. And of course, Senator Palpatine, a.k.a. Darth Sidious, a Dark Lord of the Sith, masterfully played by Ian McDiarmid. Yeah, Ian McDiarmid. Another all-time epic masterpiece. And Shmi Skywalker, masterfully played by Pernilla August. Another all-time epic masterpiece. And going forward, of course, these characters in some way remain relevant to the story in Episode 2 and in Episode 3. The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. And I am your host, Mr. The Prequels. And that's all the time we have for today, dear friends. Remember, your focus determines your reality. The Prequels is the best Star Wars. And I am your host, Mr. The Prequels. May the Force be with us. And we'll see you next time.
Now you can make your dreams come true, and you're free.